As global attention shifts from one crisis to the next, many of the world's most vulnerable communities continue to suffer in silence, especially across the Middle East. This morning on News and Views, we speak to Regional Director of Africa Muslims Agency, Hafiz Hassan Choonara, who's currently on the ground in Lebanon and also in Syria with a delegation overseeing AMA's humanitarian interventions in the region. From the devastated towns of South Lebanon, where recent conflict and Israeli bombardments have driven families from their homes to the long-standing refugee camps where Syrian families have been displaced for over a decade and into a war-torn Syria itself, where even the ruins have become home to many. AMA continues to offer vital aid, hope, and dignity to those that need it the most. And today we ask the question: what is the reality on the ground? What are the needs? And most importantly, what can you do to help? We're joined now by AMA's Regional Director, Hafiz Hassan Choonara. Hassan, Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure hearing from you and the impactful work that AMA is doing across the world.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and to the team and to the listeners of Salam Media. Thank you for having me this morning on the show. Unfortunately, due to the reception and the signal not being the best, we are unable to do a video where we could have shown where we are at the moment and what the current situation is. But we'll continue, inshallah. Thank you for having us.
I think the pleasure is all ours. I think we can just get into the conversation. You visited South Lebanon, an area that has seen, I think, intense bombardment in recent months. What is the situation like there right now? Are people still living among the destruction? Have they been forced to flee? If you can just paint a picture for our listeners on what you've observed.
Absolutely, yes. People have returned, or most of the people have returned back to what was once the beautiful homes, to what was the self-sustaining plantations. Before the conflict, people were living mostly farmland, having, growing olive trees, having plantations of olive trees, having fruit orchards, livestock, etc., agriculture fields. Unfortunately, now that they return home, they find a complete wreck of destruction. Homes completely destroyed, belongings completely destroyed, their livestock lost, all the plantations have been uprooted and completely destroyed. The basic services of, water, electricity, etc., have been completely destroyed, and having to start all over again, basically push back years, interacting with families, such as one family, and when they returned, just about 2 months ago, back to their home. They found the home completely destroyed, belongings gone. The elderly man of the house came and sat on the perch from a hill and looked over his what was once, his farm, and there wasn't a single tree left of an olive tree or orange tree that they were growing and selling to the market, but it's sustaining him and his family and extended family. And he just cried the entire night, and since the whole time he passed away, he could not bear the pain of the loss of, and looking at where the family is at the moment. Visited another home, there was another home, now completely destroyed. 22 people were in their home seeking shelter, and this house got hit, and all 22 people, including children and babies, passed on. So yes, you see destruction, and it's great. You see each story more heart-wrenching, more heartbreaking than the previous one, and people are trying to make ends meet. Remember, people were self-sustaining a few months ago. They were able to get by, they had jobs, they had fields, they were providing for their families, there were schools, there was medical facilities, there was basic infrastructure. And now they return to perhaps generations back. And many of the elderly people, 60, 70, 80 years old, at this age, need to find the courage and the energy to restart their lives. But there's a need to rebuild, help the people in South Lebanon to rebuild their lives.
I want to move on now. I think to Syria, where AMA is also, doing a lot of work. And when people think of Syria, I think the image that comes out is of that decade-long civil war that has taken place. What did you witness in that part of the world? the destruction? Are there efforts to rebuild? What kind of work is AMA doing? And what struck you the most about the current conditions in that country?
Our office is based in Syria. Right now, I'm in Damascus in a town called Muhaddamiya. We just arrived at one of the institutions of African Muslims recently, and around me, every single building has been completely destroyed. There isn't a single apartment block or single building that you can say is looking. If people turn back to the lands of Syria from Lebanon and elsewhere in hope and anticipation of finding their homes, perhaps for standing, getting to a life of normality, they're finding complete rubble and rocks and nothing to go to. People are pitching up tents outside of their one's homes and apartment blocks. And right now, like I said, in Hattaniya, we are about to start a distribution of bread to the many families who return to this town outside of Damascus. But you wonder how people are going to make ends meet, how people are going to start their lives in every single building. One is the loss of infrastructure, the damage to the belongings, to the assets, to the homes, to the buildings, to the cars. And what about the emotional damage to the people? People who've been away for years, for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, living in refugee camps, children not having a chance to education, being abused, women being abused, kids being abused, and now coming back. Yes, alhamdulillah, the projects and campaigns are able to provide food, etc. How do you undo the emotional damage caused to the thousands of orphans, widows, and families? Families are broken. And African Muslim Agencies on the ground assisting with the hour of need. That is the food baskets, that's the hot meals, that's the bread, the whole project, but also in the rebuilding of lives of in Syria, in the construction and of boreholes, in schools, and having programs to help those who carry deal with the emotional trauma they will experience.
Mm, 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 mm. And the question that always arises from our listeners is, how do we get involved? How do we make sure that African Muslims Agency is able to do the work that they've been doing for so many years, especially now? There's a lot happening across the world. The focus now being on the Middle East. How can our listeners get involved in these projects that you guys are working on?
Well, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's the givers and the takers, and there's the listeners. Perhaps Allah has blessed us to be the givers. Allah has given us the opportunity that we should take advantage. As you know, the reality and the situation, people in Afghanistan, in Palestine, Yemen, Syria, these people were once givers, and now they find themselves in a situation of takers. You see orphans, you see widows with head in their hands, crying, tearing. You see men crying. And as a man, you're expected to take care of the family, your wife, your children, those that are under your care. And then you see a man tear and cry and says, when my wife asks for the basic needs for the house, or the children ask for the basics within the home, they're not asking for clothing or any of the luxuries. And as a man, I'm unable to provide or pay the rent or put a simple bread on the table. How am I? The men that's supposed to be responsible for a home, the challenges, the dire situation. So as Allah blessed us to be in a situation of giving, then we should be taking opportunity, take advantage and give. And with the need, Allah never put us in a situation of being a taker. In the situation can turn within an instant. Allah protect one and all. So yes, contact African Muslim Agency that's here. The teams are currently on the ground. We are right now in Haddamiya, Syria, and over the next days, weeks and months, the team is permanently based here. Africa continuing. We need your support to help the people of South Lebanon, of Lebanon, as well as here in Syria.
Definitely. We're going to leave on that note. Hassan, Jazakallah so much for chatting to us. Always a pleasure. And I think kudos to the brilliant work that you guys are doing over at AMA.
تقبل الله منا منكم شكرا جزيلا. الله يكفي أنفسكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Well, they have it. That was a regional director at Africa Muslims Agency, Hafiz Hassan Choonara. And yeah, you can get involved. You know their website, www.africamuslimsagency.co.za. You can head over to their various social media platforms. Also just search Africa Muslims Agency. First, check out the amazing work that they are doing, not just in the Middle East, also right here at home in South Africa, and the rest of the continent. I think, the most, I think one of the most leading humanitarian organizations that we have here in South Africa, and it's through people like yourself, you're listening right now, that they're able to do the work that they're doing, and they can only continue try and assist those that are most vulnerable in society because of your assistance. So if you want to get involved, you want to be part of the change, you want to be part of making a difference, you can head over to their website, www.africamuslimsagency.co.za. We have come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for sticking with us for the past 2.5 hours now. We'll be with you again for the Wednesday edition of the show. But for myself, Salai Loma Quidieri, and the rest of the News and Views team, is Assalamu alaikum. Goodbye, and we'll be with you again tomorrow. Shap shap.